Hey folks, my name is C.T.Jamison, and as some of you already know, I live in Newcastle County, Delaware. Now, recently, Delaware has been trending on social media and in the news, and if you're unaware, you may be wondering why. Now, we could be trending for some good things like higher testing scores, but that's not it. Could be some bad things like the incredibly high foreclosure rate for homes. Now, I think we should talk about that, but that's not what we're talking about today. That's not why we're trending. We're actually trending because of this article by Reuters. Now, this article is actually pointing out something very interesting in Delaware, and that is that in some small municipal elections, you could actually vote as a non-resident business owner. Having a business in those municipalities and having land in those municipalities actually gives you the right to vote in those elections. Now, currently, that is only in two different municipalities in Delaware, and the one that they're talking about is called Fenwick Island, which is a small resort town in southern Delaware at the beach. Now, this article has actually led to a number of rage bait type posts like this. And look, if you've been looking at those posts or if you've read this article and you're concerned, I totally get it. I am actually concerned with this as well. Now, Reuters, the big reason why I'm actually concerned with this is Reuters points out that there are actually more businesses that live in the state of Delaware than people. There are currently about 2 million businesses that are that have their entity based in the state of Delaware, and that's a big deal for Delaware. That's how Delaware makes a lot of their income for the state. Now, if you read this article or if you saw any of the posts and you're seeing this vision of a dystopian future where businesses and rich folks are using their business ownership as a way to drown out the voice of the regular people, I totally get it, especially considering what has happened in this country recently. Now, over the past year, the Supreme Court has overturned Citizens United. This guy was essentially allowed to buy an election for about $230 million. That led us with this guy being the president and this guy being the vice president, who may or may not be defiling every couch in the White House right now. But it also left us with a cabinet full of people that have some sort of a tie to this guy who definitely defiled a number of little girls. And that is disgusting. Now, it's very understanding that you could be wary of the idea of rich people like these, business owners like these, to be able to use that power to have extra sway in our elections. Now, I will say that I agree with you. I do not want to see non-resident voting really anywhere, and I don't want to see businesses using their money to sway our elections like we've already been seeing. But in this small case of Fenwick Island, I think we could make the argument that it's not as bad as it looks. Fenwick Island is a very small space. It encompasses about a half of a square mile. There are 355 residents. In the state of Delaware, you can buy a home using an LLC. So some of those residents are full-time residences, and they're the people that own the homes are allowed to vote, of course. For you to vote in the Fenwick Island elections, you would actually have to own land or a physical business in that half of square mile space, which means that this is a very small thing in the state. Now, these people, you could be a resident of Pennsylvania, you could own a business in Fenwick Island, you would be able to vote in a Fenwick Island election. That does not allow you to vote in a Delaware election. So you're not voting in a county election or a state election. You're not voting for one of our federal representatives. You're voting for something inside the state, inside the municipality of Fenwick Island. The reason why they did this, the idea is that a place like Fenwick Island is mostly made up of businesses. This is mostly a resort town. And the people that own businesses and operate in that town, they felt like should have a say in what is going on in the local elections. So to that extent, I get it. I get that if you bought a pizza shop in Fenwick Island, you should be able to have a say in whatever the local mayor or government is doing in Fenwick Island. Now, as I've been going through social media, especially Reddit, and talking to people about this and seeing this on more larger profiles, I've seen a couple posts in Delaware. I've also seen some posts in like the progressive headquarters. And people are afraid that this could extend to larger elections. Now, in the state of Delaware, small municipalities like, let's say, Newark, could amend their statutes to allow businesses to vote in Newark. They're not doing that. It's actually only two small towns that are in southern Delaware. That's not happening on the county or the state level. Now, the fear is that that could change. Now, here's the thing. Every state that incorporates a business gives that business their rights through their corporate charter. So this could happen in any state. It's not just a Delaware thing. It could happen anywhere. Delaware could amend the laws in Delaware to allow non-residents to vote at the state level. Now, I don't think that's actually happening. I don't think that we have a fear of that happening, but it is something to think about, especially in today's times. We're seeing data centers pop up by very rich people, especially like this guy in Utah is trying to create a data center that's getting a lot of pushback from people that live there, because obviously people don't want to live next to these things. They take a lot of power, they take a lot of of water, and they tend to get tax breaks, or they'll have generators running that are polluting the air. They hum. We know that low frequency noise can be a problem. And there's this fear right now that businesses are going to be able to vote in more elections and drown out the will of the people. So what we really need to do is take this as an opportunity to talk about what should be done on the state level, not just in Delaware, but anywhere. What could be done on the state level to amend the type of rights that are given to a business. Now, this isn't anything new. The thing with this post that was put out, it was written in a manner that I think was meant to incite a reaction. Now, I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with what Reuters did here. I actually think it's pretty good journalism. This isn't a new thing. Businesses have been able to vote in Fenwick Island since 1953, so it didn't just happen. A lot of people didn't know about it. But of course, what is happening in a town of 355 people doesn't generally make national news until we're in a situation right now where businesses and rich people are using their power to change fundamentally what is happening in this country. So in Delaware, we are coming up to the end of the legislative session. So changing anything with the corporate charter in this state is not likely to happen, at least until next year. We do have elections at the end of the year, so it is something to think about, to think about who is going to represent us and how. Are they going to say that my voice matters more than a business, or are they going to say a business's voice matters more than mine? Now, as I've been getting more and more into what's going on locally here in Delaware, I have attended quite a few meetings with people that are representing us in either the county or the state level, that tend to act like businesses are more important than the people that live here. And to their credit, I get it, in the sense that there are more businesses that live in Delaware than people. But businesses are made up of people. Without us, businesses don't exist. Without workers, there are no businesses. And the thing is, right now we're seeing a lot of businesses do everything they can to take advantage of their workers, laying off people for AI and robotics. We're seeing Amazon is working on expanding in Middletown. And their expansion is going to be mostly robotics. It's going to be a warehouse full of mostly robots. So some elected officials would like to give them a tax break because they're going to bring in more business to the state. But here's the thing: they're not actually helping the people that live here. They're selling things, which is great, and of course we're going to get tax revenue from their sales. But they're laying off people for robots and for AI. We're seeing people come in here and try to build data centers, and we're seeing that all over the country. You're seeing in Georgia where they're polluting the air, and you're seeing Georgia's the other way around. Georgia is polluting the water. They've taken more water out of the aquifer than what they said they would, and people in Georgia have brown water coming out of their taps. And you're seeing Meta, I believe it is, either that or Elon Musk, one of the two, out in Tennessee, where they're running generators 24/7. These are diesel generators. They are causing particulate emissions. It's causing breathing problems for people. So the people living nearby are getting sick. You're seeing Utah, which I might actually be doing a post about Utah coming up pretty soon. Spoiler alert. But you're seeing Utah, where Kevin O'Leary is trying to make this this data center that is twice the size of Manhattan and would use more power than the entire state. And it is projected that that could raise the ambient temperature in that area by 2 to 5 degrees. Now, if you don't know that Utah is currently in a state of drought, so a giant data center that creates a lot of heat needs a lot of water to cool it, and you're trying to take that water from an area that's already in a perpetual state of drought. So of course we have this dystopian vision of what is happening, of how they are taking advantage of us, of how if we keep giving too much power to landowners or business owners, then regular people are the ones that get screwed. And I am right there with you. I don't personally think that what's happening in Fenwick Island is as nefarious as people are making it out to be, but I think that we should have the conversation to say, hey, just because it's not that bad for a very small space in Fenwick Island doesn't mean that we shouldn't come together and say, hey, we need to think about what kind of rights we give to someone because they have more money. We need to come together and say, if you create a business, is there a chance that you could be voting in multiple elections, which is actually what's happening here. I did a little bit of research and I was curious if there were other states or other areas where you could actually vote as a non-resident. Because, like I said, this is in Fenwick Island. You could be a resident of Pennsylvania but run a business in Fenwick Island, and you would be able to vote in that election in Fenwick Island as the business owner as a non-resident. That's actually only in 2 states. I think that we should really approach that and say non-resident voting should not be a thing. Those 2 states, by the way, are Delaware and Connecticut. There are 10 states that allow non-resident voting in certain special elections. Now, I tried to look at some of these. I'm going to post them on here. Some of them, the web pages are down. So these are all nuanced. They're not. No one's allowed to vote as a non-resident at a county or a state level. But those type of things can be changed. If it's the state's constitution that doesn't allow that, constitutions can be changed. It's not easy, but it can be changed. Or if it's a town's charter that allows it or disallows it, that could be changed as well. So we should be thinking about what kind of rights we give to a business when they are chartered, when they are creating their business. If that business was never given the right to vote, then it doesn't matter what you do at a town's level. The business never has the right to vote, which I think is where we should go with that. Now, beyond that, we also have this issue with Citizens United, and we should also be using the corporate charters in states to limit how much money a business could give to a political campaign. Now, we know that's already starting to happen. It's happening in Hawaii. They're working on it in Montana. But there are 4 states that charter the most businesses in the country, and Delaware happens to be one of them. So my fellow Delawareans, when we're thinking about who is representing us on the state level, we should be thinking about who cares about us more than the businesses. And I realize that changing the donation levels for a business through the corporate charter is not likely to happen in Delaware until it happens in many other states. I think that Delaware would probably be of the last 3 to make that change, those 3 being Delaware, Texas, and Nevada. And that would come after Wyoming, which would be the 4th state. And then you have all of the rest of the states that should probably do it first. And the fear in this state is that most of our income comes from the corporate charter and from corporate taxes. So people aren't going to want to lose that by making this change too early and allowing states to flee to other states. Allowing businesses to flee to other states. I'm not afraid of that. I think that as a whole, the country should be working on that together right now to say, like, hey, if we're going to do it now and 20 or 30 other states are going to do it at the same time, you're not really going to have anywhere to hide. So that's not a big deal. As for the voting situation, it's such a small impact in the state of Delaware that could be changed, and I don't think you're actually going to see a lot of businesses leave for that case, because they're only actually allowed to vote in 2 very small municipalities anyway. So it's not like Amazon would leave. I don't know if Amazon's actually chartered here, but it's not like a large corporation or a bank would leave, because they're not voting in elections anyway, because they're not based out of Fenwick Island in that little half a square mile space. Anyway, it's something for us to come together and actually talk about and think about for the next legislative session. It's something to think about for midterm elections. We know that is coming up. We do have a couple people that are up for election in our federal elections. Sarah McBride has a challenger, and so does Chris Coons, I believe, has a Republican challenger. He does not have a primary challenger. I don't think you're going to get any better with a Republican from Delaware than Chris Coons. I wish we had a good primary challenger. I wish I had the money to do that. So anyway, think about it. Post in the comments. I hope you enjoyed this. This is really an impromptu thing because it's something that's really happening right this second in the state of Delaware. But look, I'll be back with more information about what's going on in Delaware or what's going on all over, giving some opinions and some insight as to what I'm seeing happening. And hopefully tomorrow I will be able to book my trip to Utah and we'll be able to go see some of the natural resources, do a little bit of ecotourism in Utah. I'll do a couple posts from that if I can make it. And really it's just like, for me, it actually kind of fell in my lap, and saying we're talking about data centers and we're talking about this giant data center in Utah. It'd be really cool to go out there and see what is actually at stake. If you saw my last post, you also know that I was doing some lobbying with the Delaware Sierra Club down in Dover. So one of the things we were trying to do is get the non-tidal wetlands bill passed. I don't know if it passed yet. It's only been a couple of days. This week is the week they're going through the finance portion of the legislative session. So hopefully it gets financed and it gets posted. But you know that I am, at the core of my soul, I am a conservationist, and it's really nice to go and explore some of our natural resources and our parks, and also to show people why we should be working to save those things, why endangered species are more important than data centers. So glad you guys watched. Let me know in the comments what you think about the thing down in Fenwick Island, what we should do. Do we have any, has anybody talked to any of our local representatives to find out what they feel about it? If they haven't, I would love to, if any of our local representatives ever see this, I would love to talk to you about it and pick your brain about it, because I think that is something to really think about in terms of where we are going with our corporate charter and how we treat businesses versus how we treat the people, and get back to realizing that government is for the people, and government should be caring about the people more than the business charters, and caring about all the people, especially the people at the bottom, instead of the few people at the top with all the money. They like to line people's pockets, and we know what they do. Have a good night, guys.